hit the record button for this session. And it looks like we've got our panel members here already. This is fantastic. Everybody's so timely and prompt. I love it. So I'm going to duck behind the curtain and enjoy staying engaged at every stage. This sounds like a really good program.
Steve, thank you so much for all your help. You have been amazing. I can't believe we are like right on schedule. I probably shouldn't say too much too soon because I don't want to jinx anything, but it certainly has been wonderful. I just want to give people a little bit of a heads up. This next session, it's really kind of like two different sessions back to back in one. And I will tell you about the three main presenters. We're going to kick off with Sarah Amos, and she is the director of the new Culpeper Adult Day Center. We are also thrilled to have Sarah on board and the prospect of this new Adult Day Center. Great support for caregivers. So if you are local, you're here today, and you need respite care, please reach out to Sarah. She is a certified therapeutic recreation specialist with a background in activity programming for individuals living with dementia and other related disabilities. After receiving her master's in recreation therapy from Indiana University, Sarah took on the task of developing the caregiver ministry in Warrenton, Virginia, and she really did an amazing job with that and so much support for caregivers in our area. She is now leading the opening of the Adult Day Center in Culpeper. She is passionate about using her recreation therapy knowledge to create programs that purposefully engage senior adults of all ability levels and provide them with a sense of value. And of course, I share her passion, being a CTRS myself, and I just love her enthusiasm. Sarah's going to present about engaging activities and give you some strategies and ideas. And then we're going to as Sarah wraps up, we're going to invite Emily Ahara to join, and Emily is going to focus specifically on the Time Slips program, and Kathy Tompkins and some of their colleagues will be joining them. Now, both Emily and Kathy are with George Mason University. Emily is a PhD, Master of Social Work, and she is chair and associate professor in the Department of Social Work at George Mason University. And her research focuses on interventions and policies and system changes necessary to eliminate health inequities and improve the quality of life for older adults. She's done a ton of research looking at arts interventions and how they can help mood and agitation. And I have to say, generally at Mason, their social work gerontology department are doing many innovative and creative programming for persons who are living with dementia. And Kathy Tompkins, PhD, MSW, is Associate Dean for Faculty Affairs at George Mason University. And she really has extensive experience leading community-based projects related to older adults and their caregivers. She has worked on many research projects as well, looking at virtual trainings and certificates in telebehavioral health. She has published, and she is just doing, again, tremendous work for not only people living with dementia, but also caregivers and others in the community and healthcare professionals as well. So just as a reminder, Sarah's going to kick us off, and then when Sarah finishes her presentation, she's going to invite Emily and Kathy to the stage. So take it away, Sarah.
Thank you, Ellen. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my screen, but while I'm doing that, I just want to just say thank you to everyone for being here today. It's been a lot of listening, and so thank you guys for sticking it out with us. I'm really excited to be here today just to share more about activities. I could talk about activities all day long because there are a lot of strategies that people can use and utilize to get your loved ones engaged. And what I'll say also to preface my presentation is that not everything I share may work for your loved one, but I'm hoping I can share just some creative ideas to get your loved ones or your care receivers engaged in something that's meaningful to them. As we age, we have so much to offer the community and our families, but often we face limitations that make it hard or kind of put up barriers for our ability to do things that we enjoy. So I think it's really important what we're going to talk about today, and I'm excited for Emily's presentation too after mine, because they have a really cool activity to show you. So before we get started, I just want to say welcome. And if you haven't visited our booth at the virtual exhibit hall, please give it a look. Our adult day center is called Generations Central, and it will be located at Culpeper Baptist Church on the very first floor. So if you are in any of the 5-county region, or the region of 5 counties, Rappahannock, Orange, Madison, Fauquier, or Culpeper, we would love to talk to you about what it could look like for your loved one to attend our center. So let's go ahead and dive in. So a little bit more about me. I just want to give some background so you understand where I'm coming from. I am a certified therapeutic recreation specialist, which I always tell people means I get to have fun for a living. But actually, I got a master's degree in recreation therapy to pursue this certification from the National Council on Therapeutic Recreation. Because I think it's really important that we don't just do activities to do them, but that we actually have purpose behind them, and that we are using them as a tool to help people come alive, to feel purposeful, to get engaged, to keep their health, their cognitive health, their physical health as long as possible. I'm also the director, as Ellen mentioned, of the new adult day center called Generations Central. And I just want to note, we are having some virtual office hours if you'd like to ask more questions about our center on October 26th from 7 to 8 p.m. So that's a little plug to come join me and ask your questions about the center. Before I started working here, I did work at Cornerstone Cares in Warrenton. And before that, I spent about 6 years working in the adult day setting at Virginia Tech. So I have a lot of experience with creative thinking, creative problem solving when it comes to getting different types of people engaged, especially individuals living with dementia, because depending on the day, depending on the person, it can just be challenging. But there's also a lot of fun approaches, and that's what I love so much about my job, is it's kind of like solving a little puzzle. How can I get this person engaged in something meaningful to them? I was also the facilitator of Memory Masterclass there. So we taught a lot of lifestyle strategies in that course to help promote brain health for individuals who maybe were receiving a mild cognitive impairment diagnosis. And we found out there's actually a lot you can do in your daily life to promote brain health, even if you have dementia or a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or one of the other dementias. And it's things like exercise, cognitive engagement, social engagement, stress management, good nutrition, getting enough sleep at night as well. So there's a lot we can do in our daily lives. And we're going to talk a lot about that today when we think about the activities that our loved ones do or that our care receivers do when we're caring for them. So let's talk a little bit more about recreation therapy, because I think it's just important to understand we don't just do bingo all the time, but also just kind of a lot of the thought that goes into programming and activities. So a recreation therapist is a therapeutic professional, and we use purposeful activities to help improve or just prolong, maintain someone's emotional, social, physical, cognitive, and spiritual well-being. Understanding that a lot of times we can't improve our health, especially if we're facing a diagnosis like dementia, but that there's a lot we can do to prolong that well-being and function as long as possible. The goal for recreation therapy is to decrease anxiety, depression, stress, increase function and well-being, and really just do that all through enjoying good activities, things that are going to be meaningful to people. So before we get started, I just want to kind of address the fact, and I think a few people have said it today, these are hard times that we're in. And so many of our senior adults are really facing loneliness. And I did a great study on this when I was in my master's program, and I read a whole book about loneliness research. And they said that loneliness, the prolonged feeling of loneliness and social isolation affects our body as much as high blood pressure and smoking, which is crazy. It has that much of a physical effect on our health. It also is a precipitant for mental health decline. So it can kind of make someone progress into depression faster. And it creates this negative feedback loop. So what that means is when I'm feeling lonely, I tend to feel negative emotions, sadness, kind of an apathy. I tend to kind of withdraw. And those emotions make it harder for me to actually get connected. So what I need to do is get out and get social, connect with people so I don't feel lonely anymore. But often the experience of loneliness and social isolation kind of compounds on itself. So the more lonely I feel, the less likely I am to connect with others. So it can quickly spiral us into this very isolated place. When we think about loneliness, it's kind of like hunger. So when we're hungry, it's our body alerting us that we need to eat something. And loneliness is an emotion that alerts us to our need for connection. So I just want to kind of preface this to say that social connection, activities, doing things that are meaningful with others is actually super important, not just for our emotional health, but our physical and mental health as well. So let's talk about how we can do that. So there are two types of activities, and as a caregiver, I'm going to say you're probably using both, and that's totally fine. Sometimes we have what we call our diversional activities. So these don't really have a purpose. They might be watching TV or kind of giving your loved one a magazine to read. It's kind of something we do to keep someone busy. Now, to be honest, as a caregiver, you probably need 15 minutes to go load the laundry, to go get the mail. Sometimes using a diversional activity is really helpful because it gives you just a little break so that you can go do something else. But we can't always be doing diversional activities. Those aren't actually going to help improve our quality of life or functioning. So we want to really look towards things that are therapeutic or purposeful. So this is kind of directed by one or more care goals to bring a change in behavior. So for example, if someone's care goal is to decrease loneliness and social isolation, we might use a therapeutic activity like reminiscing group with others that are our similar peers. Or we might use something like doing art with a grandchild. Doing something that engages us with something else is kind of helping then to reduce the social isolation. And we always want it to be kind of based on an individual's interests, history, and preferences. So it's really important, maybe think through as a caregiver, what kind of activities you're using. Again, they both have their place, but we can't always just be doing those diversional activities where our loved one's sitting watching TV all day, because that's ultimately not going to be improving their quality of life or health. So there are 6 domains of function. So when we think about health, these are 6 ways that we can kind of think about our health. So every activity can improve the well-being in one of these areas. We have our physical health, which is our body, the way we move, all that good stuff, even like our internal body as well. Our emotional health, how are our feelings? Are we depressed? Are we excited? Are we feeling pretty good about life in general? Our social well-being, our social domain of function. How much are we connecting with others? Again, that's where that loneliness comes in. Our cognitive well-being, so important when we think about Alzheimer's and other dementias, is this cognitive well-being. And actually, in that brain health course I discussed earlier, we learned that cognitive health is kind of like a big water tower or a muscle that you exercise. The more you exercise it, if you start to experience negative impacts of Alzheimer's or dementia and actual physical changes from that, the more resources you ultimately have to draw from, and the longer you will be able to cognitively function. So we really want to keep our cognitive domain of function active as much as possible. Also, our spiritual well-being. So connection to something higher than ourselves, purpose and value, connection through faith, or connection to a community purpose. And then occupational, which I don't use quite as much as the occupational therapists do, but that kind of has to do with our role. So our role in our family, our role in the community, how do we define our role, and how do we maintain that role as long as possible? And so as we think about activities and all these domains of function and health, we really want to try and engage as many as we can in one activity. Not every activity is going to engage all 6 of these. That's actually kind of an unreasonable goal. But if you think of something like reminiscing, that's engaging someone's cognition or their cognitive functioning. It's engaging that emotional functioning too. If you ask, well, tell me about a time when you felt really happy as a child. And then it's also engaging that social opportunity as well. So you might say, share with someone else or connect your story to someone else's story as well. So those are some domains of function to think through, and think through how any activity you do might be able to engage 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 or 5 of these. So if you're having a hard time motivating your loved one, your care receiver, there's a few things you can consider. First of all is just the environment. How is the environment promoting or keeping your loved one from interacting? So what does the physical environment look like? Are there physical barriers for someone, doing an art activity at the table? Emotional, is the emotional environment kind of heavy or stressed? That's not really going to give someone the opportunity to be able to really engage fully and express themselves. Also thinking about relational. So what are the relationships in the room? What do those dynamics look, and how might that keep someone from interacting? And then any sort of hidden triggers. So I learned this one in school. It was always interesting. If you pause for a minute, and actually you might have heard a minute ago, they're doing construction in the building for the adult day center, and you can hear some loud banging. So things that are in the environment that we might not recognize at first could be kind of triggering someone or agitating someone, and they can't necessarily express I don't like that thumping. It's really bothering me, or the light above me is really making a lot of noise and I don't like that. So thinking through all of those things, people's time, or the time of day and the pattern that people might have had. So if you have a loved one who went to work every morning and got up and got dressed and got ready to go, maybe that's a better time to try and do an activity with them. Or maybe they like to take a nap in the afternoon. So at around 2 every day. So trying to encourage them to do something at 2 when they're used to taking a nap, probably not going to happen. Obviously those patterns might have changed over time, but sometimes we see patterns, just like at the adult day, we used to have people at Virginia Tech, we used to have people try and pay us after lunch because that's something that they've always done. They always go to a restaurant and pay. And so for us to expect them to be like, oh no, I'm not going to pay for this meal I just received, was kind of silly of us. So kind of thinking through patterns or their perspective on that. Think through someone's motivations. So what's something that interests them or kind of intrigues them? Maybe it's a certain subject. Maybe it's a place they've traveled. We had a wonderful participant in the adult day at Virginia Tech who loved poetry, and he had actually written a few books of poetry. So he wasn't really engaged as much in the social activities we had, but we would sit with him and read his poetry to him because he could no longer see enough to read them. So we try and think of ways to engage them in something meaningful, even if they can't themselves do it. Think about dislikes. One of the things I'm extremely excited about for our adult day center is that we're going to be located with the Child Development Center here. And but I also understand that some senior adults do not enjoy children. So I wouldn't ask a senior adult who doesn't like kids to come over and do something with a 3-year-old. So kind of thinking through their interests, dislikes, also relationships. Maybe they're not interested in taking a walk with you because they see you all the time. They hear you talking to them all the time. And but maybe you have a grandson or a granddaughter who could come and say, Grandpa, would you take a walk with me? And for them, that might be more meaningful and more motivating than, just you as a spouse or you as a child encouraging them to do it. Really think about your presence in the environment. Are you standing in a closed position when you're asking something, maybe with your brow furrowed, or are you in an open position? So thinking through how you are in that environment, your body language, for sure. Also your energy. Maybe they're a little tired, and this happens to me all the time because I tend to be very enthusiastic. They're a little tired, and so you coming up to them and saying, we're about to do art, do you want to come, is a little much. And they're like, oh no, I'm not that energized, I'm not interested. So if I gauged that as a therapist, I might say, come over and sit with them, chat for a few minutes and say, thinking about doing some art in a few minutes. Would you like to join? And trying to match their energy, but also motivate them as well. And certainly consider our moods. There have been a few times in the therapeutic setting when I've been a little anxious about something. And I've noticed that a senior adult with dementia who was also anxious was making me more anxious. And we were just kind of feeding off of each other. So think about how you can kind of regulate yourself, take a breath, start again, and then think about how that person is receiving you and your invitation to do something with them. Really think about barriers. So again, those physical barriers, are they able to reach all the materials they need for an activity? Are there too many materials in front of them for an activity? Again, thinking about those emotional barriers. Maybe they're feeling a little anxious today, a little unconfident in themselves, And so asking them to do an art activity where they are having to be creative, they're just not feeling able to do that. They're feeling stressed, they're feeling anxious about something. And maybe that's something you need to talk through before you can invite them to kind of do something that's a little bit more emotionally expressive. Again, thinking about social barriers, how are they connecting with those around them? And maybe that's just you and the care receiver. So how is your day going? How are you relating well to one another? And thinking about, maybe they're frustrated with you, so you're not necessarily the best person to ask them to do something. Maybe you have a neighbor, a fresh face, as I like to call it, who's willing to come in and do something with them instead of just them seeing you all day long. And then also thinking about cognitive barriers. So again, if I were to do an art activity and I said, you can choose color pencils, not crayons, color pencils, pastels, watercolors, acrylic paints, and I put all these things in front of them, someone with dementia would easily become overwhelmed depending on what stage they're in. So I might have to gauge, okay, I offered too many choices. So I might take a few off the table and say, how about, would you like to use pastels or watercolors today? And then even if that's too much, even modifying down to just one or two choices. Would you like to paint with blue watercolors today, or would you like to paint with green? So really kind of gauging someone's ability to engage in an activity, especially if it has multiple steps as well. Inviting people to be a part of an activity. So for example, reminiscing, asking someone an open-ended question like, tell me about a childhood memory. That can be a little overwhelming, but I might say, did you ever go to school as a child? And most people did. So that would be a place to start. And I would say, did you have a teacher that you liked? And they might say yes or no. And then I might say, my favorite line is, tell me more about that. So people really respond well to open-ended questions. They really are more willing to open up if you kind of just get them on a subject that they're enjoying and you say, tell me more about that. So that's something I always use and kind of keep in my back pocket. Lastly, communication. So tone of voice. Well, the doctor said you need to go do your exercise today. So we need to go take a walk for 20 minutes. I don't think that would be a very motivating. I mean, if you kind of need to kick in the pants, that would be good. But I might say, I'm feeling a little tired today. Something that really helps me get energy is kind of getting up and taking a walk. Or, it's really beautiful out today. I think maybe I might just try and walk to the mailbox. Would you like to come with me? So really thinking about the invitation and the way we're asking people, prompting people, I'm going to go take a walk outside, and maybe giving them your hand. Would you like to come? Or putting some things in front of them, or what we call parallel activities are really helpful. So if you have a loved one who used to do puzzles but doesn't do them anymore, I would say put a puzzle on the table and start doing it yourself, and say, have them come sit with you. Would you like to come sit with me while I do this? And you might see over time that they're willing to engage and start kind of interacting with what you're interacting with because you're invested in doing it. People really enjoy doing things with other people. And then, so also just thinking about your nonverbal cues. Are you open and inviting with how you ask people? Are you understanding that, oh, yeah, I'm feeling a little tired today too. Maybe we could go to exercise and just do, a few arm exercises today instead of all of them, trying to be understanding as well. So what I say with this is it's all about how you ask. And again, I have so much respect for you caregivers because it is a lot to be with someone all day long and you're having to go through your daily routines with them. So just, give yourself a lot of grace. Maybe it doesn't work today, but tomorrow you try a new thing and, ask them a different way and it works. Or you get someone else in your family to ask them to do something, just kind of creatively thinking through all of these options. So where do we start with activities? We kind of have this idea of person-centered care, which means that we really take a person's life pursuits and personal history and traits into consideration with every activity that we do. So think about your loved one's interests, things that they've been interested in the past, or things that you've noticed maybe pique their interest now. Their relationships, which relationships are meaningful to them? Maybe you have a sibling who's who's also a long distance caregiver. Have them call regularly, ask them to. Think about their career or things that they did in their career, and maybe even a way for them to share about that to a grandchild or someone in your neighborhood, another child. Think about their hobbies, things that they've done in the past, and modifying them. So golf is maybe not reasonable for everyone anymore. But what did they like about golf? Did they like being outside? Maybe there's a way you can do something outside together. Did they like the physical activity of it, or having to have the hand-eye coordination? Maybe you can do mini golf or something, get a modified mini golf for your, or putt for your house. Those are easy to find. So kind of thinking through how you might modify those interests in a way that they can engage with them now. Thinking through their traits and qualities, things that they're good at. And that kind of goes to our next point, which is that all activities that we do should be strengths-based. So what are they good at? When a person comes to the Adult Day Center, we don't look at them and say, well, you can't move your hands very well anymore, so art is out and crafts are out, no cooking for you. We would say, okay, so maybe the fine motor pieces are not good for you anymore. Holding a paintbrush is too much, but what can you do? Well, you have really good gross motor. You're able to mix a bowl of something for us. So we're going to give you that task when we do cooking together. So we really look at people's strengths. We look at what they bring to the table rather than their weaknesses. That's really hard as a caregiver because we've been used to seeing this person for their whole life, and we often are grieving little pieces of them that have changed, but really try and focus on those positives and what they can still do. Always age appropriate. You will never see crayons in our Adult Day Center unless we are doing something with the kids. And that's because crayons tend to be pretty infantile, and we never want to put them in front of seniors because that's kind of like, why am I using crayons? I'm not a child. And they're not. So the only times we would use those is if we had children to use them with them. And there was that kind of role that they were taking on to help the kids. Offer the least restrictive environment. That basically means we do as little as possible for the person if they can do it for themselves. So you may offer help in some situations. Can I cut that piece of paper for you? Because it seems like you're having a hard time holding the scissors. But they might say, no, I'm good. Or maybe you just need a bigger pair of scissors. So if they needed help cutting, I would cut it out and I would give it back to them. I wouldn't do anything more than they needed help to accomplish the task or to participate in the activity. And lastly, we always want to promote choice and autonomy. All of us desire a sense of control over our lives. And so sometimes even just choosing between the red colored pencil and the blue colored pencil just makes us feel like we've made a decision that day. So, or do you want to go for a walk? Or do you want to just sit out on the porch today? Or do you want to watch old Western on TV, or would you like to sit and chat with me today? So in every little activity, trying to give people as much choice as possible. So Emily is going to give you a really fun activity, but I just wanted to leave you with something. So, if you could travel to any place, where would it be? Maybe that's a question you could just ask your care receiver. Mom, Dad, if you could go anywhere, where would you want to go? My answer to this was the beach, because I have not gotten to go to the beach in a few years, and I'm a little sad about that. So there's a way that you could kind of create a little vacation for them, even if you can't do all the traveling anymore. So for my example, I talked about doing a beach scene. So I might start with a scented candle that smells like, sandalwood or something beachy like. And I would try and find a beach blanket or a towel, maybe find some beach chairs, think of some music, or ask my loved one, what's the music you think of when you think of going to the beach? Make a little playlist, find an umbrella, maybe also ask them, so when you go to the beach, if that's where you want to travel, what's a food treat, or what's something that you can taste when you think of the beach? And maybe it's like, I think mine's always ice cream, like the chocolate vanilla twist ice cream. So I might get some ice cream and a little misting fan, because we all love that feeling, or most of us love the feeling of the mist coming off the waves. Maybe find some sunglasses or hat, something you might wear to the beach. And maybe even get some sunscreen, because sunscreen has that very unique smell. And I don't know about you, but every time I put it on, I always think of the beach. So this is gathering all these supplies. You would kind of set up this scene in a place that could be comfortable for you and your loved one to enjoy. So maybe it's on the back porch, maybe it's even inside. Maybe they aren't able to come to a place, but you bring all the supplies to them and you say, we're going to pretend we're at the beach today. and engaging all of these different senses, the smell, the taste, the noise of the music, even just the feel of like the hat on your head, the feel of the sunglasses, the feel of the blanket. All of that sensory information is going to help someone promote reminiscence for this person. So, and maybe you can't go to the beach anymore, but you can kind of take that time to ask them about things that they remember about the beach. What do they like about the beach? And through all of this, the kind of goal is to increase positive emotion and cognitive engagement. So you're really stimulating all those senses and giving them opportunities to really go through that memory and think of things about the beach that they liked. You could even write them a little invitation to like meet you at the beach at a certain time. That would be a little fun thing to add to it. So this is just one activity. And again, the approach is just really stimulating the senses as much as possible. It's person-centered, so you're asking them where would they like to go? And maybe at some place it's kind of hard to recreate, like Paris or like Alaska. That might be hard, but maybe you could pull out some old photo albums and find like a taste or a smell to kind of get their memory jogged and just go through photo albums. Oh, look at that picture. Tell me more about that. Oh, that looks really interesting. Tell me more about that. This is all things that are really meaningful. Reminiscing is really meaningful to all of us because we love to kind of remember those positive memories. But also in reminiscing, some bad memories might come up, which is okay. We acknowledge them, but we really try and focus on those things that are really good. I am just about at the end of my presentation. I hope that's giving you just a few ideas of ways that you can engage your loved one in a variety of activities. Again, our Adult Day Center will be doing all these types of things: cooking, intergenerational activities with kids, reminiscing, music group, all sorts of stuff, games. And if you're interested in learning more about our center or your loved one might benefit from attending, please feel free to visit us on Facebook. You can email me at that email address or call. And like I said earlier, we are having a virtual office hour on the 26th from 7 to 8 to answer any questions you have. With that, I will pass it over to Emily. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was fantastic. I'm going to start by, Ellen already introduced Kathy, but I also wanted to introduce Kendall. So Kathy and Kendall are joining me today. And let's see. And Kendall is a graduate research assistant who's been working with us for, I want to say 3 or 4 years, but she absolutely loves to do time slips. So we couldn't pass up this opportunity to have her do this with you. So let me see, play from the start. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about Time Slips, which is a program, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But really this idea of a person-centered, strengths-based, age-appropriate activity that Sarah was talking about really is embodied in Time Slips, I would say. So let's see. Just a little bit about some of the premises under creativity. When we think about creativity and we think about how that adds something. So Gene Cohen was a pioneering geriatric psychiatrist who his research really showed that old age can be a time of creativity, right? And so there's so many creative ways to both express oneself, but also to engage with others. And as Sarah's talking about creative problem solving, I think that's a great other way to use that portion of our brain. And what Time Slips does helps us when we're working with people who are living with dementia to shift away from that expectation of memory, right? So there's a shared imagination and experience. I love that whole beach scene because it took me to the beach even in those few minutes. And then another premise, right, is that people living with dementia are capable of growth, learning, and sharing. So a lot of times I think some of the kind of ageist attitudes in our society or what we think people are capable of kind of limit people's experiences, right? But they absolutely have the capability of engaging. And every one of us has the capacity to be creative. And that's why creating and sharing stories are of equal value. And There are no wrong answers. This is my favorite thing about time slips. You never can say anything wrong, right? So we don't reject anything. We take everything and include it in the story. And then also people need social roles to express who they are. So it's good for folks to be able to have that choice and autonomy, but also express who they are. Okay, so just we don't have time to play this clip, but if you have a chance, you can go to the TimeSlips website, which is at timeslips.org. It is an award-winning non-pharmacological creative storytelling intervention that was designed for individuals living with dementia and basing on a MacArthur Genius Grant for creating this. Oh, there you go. I was going to play. Some of the key concepts under time slips include the connect, engage, and inspire, those 3 circles that you see in front of you. And these are key ones where time slips can really help people do all of these 3 things. So there's a growing body of research that demonstrates that creativity helps our brains and increases our cognitive reserves. So it's really, this technique is very engaging because it encourages imagination rather than relying on memory. I think probably everyone knows, but just a reminder that, when you ask someone to remember something, if they are having memory problems, then it becomes a very frustrating act, right? So rather than saying, remember when, all of those tips that Sarah was talking about, really about inviting them to share with what they are thinking, right? So how they're interpreting a picture or a sound, an image, because this is really their time. So some of the core values of time slips really embody those person-centered techniques. And these 4 are really useful, I think, in a daily sort of way when you're interacting with people. So the saying yes and, this works for everyone, actually. So instead of saying no but, right, we say yes and, right? Because it encourages anyone who's having the conversation to add to the conversation rather than being shut down. The second is giving proof of listening. So we might think of this as active listening, but it really is about providing evidence that we're listening and accepting each person's contributions. And sometimes we have to wait for the answers, right? Because it could take a person living with dementia about 20 seconds to respond. And if we don't wait for them to answer, we're dismissing their contributions, thereby devaluing them. So we can also show proof of listening by repeating their answers or thoughts exactly as they said them. So when we're creating a story with a group of people, as they are saying something, we will repeat it back, just partly to give us time and make sure we have it right, but it also helps to affirm what they're saying. I'm asking beautiful questions. And so with beautiful questions, you can invite someone to think a little differently. There are no right or wrong answers, and it really frees us from having a right or wrong and opens us up to different possibilities and wonder. And we'll talk a little bit more about beautiful questions in a minute. And then the final thing is making it meaningful. So it makes us feel as if life is worthwhile, even when we're having moments of pain, right? It invites personal expression, provides a pleasurable experience, and connects us to the larger world in some way, giving us purpose. So that idea of beautiful questions is one of the core concepts of time slips. And so again, it's really to invite someone else into wonderment, right? It opens this shared path of discovery, and it's really an open-ended question. And it can be used in so many different ways. It can just be used, certainly in a conversation. It could be used on the phone when you're talking to someone. Perhaps it's a writing prompt to have a pen pal relationship. It can just be a little note in next to someone's lunch, or maybe in restaurants, they could start doing this where they leave a little beautiful question when they give you the bill. It could also inspire further art or creative projects. So there are many different ways to use beautiful questions. And we're going to ask for a little audience participation now. So we have a few sample beautiful questions. And so here are some ideas, right? So what is the most beautiful sound in the world? What smells make you happy? What gift would you give to the next generation? What are the sounds of childhood? And if you could have a superpower, what would it be? We're going to pick one of these. So let's try, let's do the, what smells make you happy? And if you could just type into the chat the first thing that comes to mind when you think of the smells that make you happy. And then I think Kendall will be looking at that.
There's some great answers coming in.
Do you want to read off a few?
Sure. Evergreen trees, fresh mowed grass, Christmas trees, fresh cut hay. Emily, you'll like this one, the ocean, surf and salt. Lavender, fresh baked cookies, freshly cut grass, vanilla, and coffee also. Cinnamon, flowers, good food cooking, flowers, baking bread, sauteing onions, cut grass. Oh, fresh baked chocolate chip cookies. Chocolate chip cookies in the oven. Chocolate chip cookies are a big hit. Honeysuckle, a baby's neck, and patchouli. That's what we have so far.
Those are awesome.
Those are
I love
great.
that. It really took me to someone's kitchen
Yeah.
and their garden. So thank you. But these, you can see.
We also, excuse me, Emily,
Oh,
we also
yes.
just got, and puppy breath, which we couldn't let that one go.
Oh, we cannot let that go. Yes.
Cannot let that
Puppy
go.
breath. Absolutely. So thank you for answering those. But you can see how easily it can inspire something, right? So similar to the beach scene, right? Just a simple question like this might help someone imagine being in a different place or experiencing something that was pleasurable to them. Another way we use the creative engagement is through postcards. And so we are at a university, so we work with students to also learn about how to engage with people living with dementia or older adults in different ways. And so these two are example postcards that Kathy actually had done in her class. Kathy, do you want to read the postcards?
Sure, I'm happy to read the postcards. Hello, everyone. So sorry, something's popping up on my screen.
I'm sorry.
Enabling media.
Okay, I'll just enable.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Hello, whenever I feel sad, I love to listen to music. What songs make you feel happy every time you listen to it? This is by one of our undergraduate students. And then the other one with Winnie the Pooh. Hello, I'd like to share my favorite quote from Winnie the Pooh with you. You are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, smarter than you think, and loved more than you'll ever know. I leave you with this beautiful question. When do you truly feel at home? Sending you a socially distant hug. Again, another one of our undergraduates.
Thank you. Yeah, so this was during the pandemic. So, but what was nice about it is when we can then send those to, like, for example, on the TimeSlips website, they have a list of nursing facilities that wanted postcards to come in for their residents. And so, you know, it's a nice way to create a connection. So that's one thing that we try to do. And then there's something called Telestories. So Telestories is more of an individual sort of phone call based activity. And they're designed to provide participants with the same kind of sparking of creativity, facilitating meaningful engagement. And it can be done in different ways, but one of our graduate students last year was doing Telestories with someone who was living alone, and she just, she really sort of, her son really wanted her to have some connection. So they had several Telestories sessions, and at the end of it, our student, Emily, created this legacy gift. And so legacy gift is something that's shareable with the person and also with the broader community. And so what she did was really, like, through their time together, got to know her, and the person really loved cats. So she drew these watercolors of these cats for her. And then she was also, they were doing stories together. So at the bottom is a creativity journal. So she wrote the story out for the person, and then she sent this packet to her. So she would have something to remember the time with. So that's just an example of Telestories. And so now we want to do in a really short amount of time is create a story together. So we would like to have maybe 5 volunteers who would come on stage with us and create a story.
Great. Okay, so folks, if you would like to be a volunteer, raise your virtual hand, and then I will promote you to the stage. And you just click the little hand button there, and hopefully we'll get a few volunteers for you.
Please don't be shy. This is going to be really fun.
Oh, let's see. We got Carolyn. So Carolyn, I've prompted you to the stage, and you can turn your mic or camera on. Anybody else want to join Carolyn? Come on. This will be fun. You just raise your virtual hand. We got Kathy. How many do you need?
Oh, it'd be great if we get 5. So I just want to say that no experience is necessary, right? So
Okay.
Don't feel shy.
So we can take 3 more, folks. So 3 more hands to raise.
I'll be back up if we don't get 3 more.
We got
but
Virginia.
awesome.
Okay.
Y'all getting sick of hearing me today, so it'd be great if we could
and
get
we
a
got
few
Nancy.
others. Yay.
All right. And maybe one more to participate in this fun activity. All right, well, you got 4.
That's perfect. And I think Sarah's still on. So whoever is on, Ellen, you can jump in too. So we're gonna create a story with this. All right, so for our folks on stage, you can jump in at any point. Kathy will be typing out what you say. Okay, so
You guys see my screen, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But so don't focus on what it is so much. Well, anyway, no rules. So let's look at this picture, and where should we say this is taking place?
Like a post office box. It's got
Did you say it's a post office box?
Those old post office boxes that are in lines.
Yeah.
You're probably too young to know. But they didn't have those wires on top. What in the world?
Is it hard to see the picture? I'm wondering.
It's a little small. I'm on my cell phone, but I was going to say like a skyscraper in New York.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
Kathy, do you want me to share the picture only?
Oh, I'm trying. It's not working. Whatever you think.
There you go.
Is that better?
But what are those ladybugs?
I'm wondering if it's on presentation mode.
Okay, why don't I share the actual picture and Kathy can continue she'll read us the story.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Okay, is that better?
There you go. Yes.
That's great.
Okay, so where were we? So we have a post office box. What else? I think I heard skyscraper. Did someone say it's a skyscraper?
This is Carolyn. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
Okay, great. Yes, I was thinking a skyscraper.
Okay. And when do we think this is taking place?
I think it's in the middle of the day.
Okay. So we're in the
I
middle
think
of
it's
the day.
yesterday.
Cloudy.
It's cloudy, so it must be yesterday. And what is on that building?
Goodness, no.
Ladybugs.
Those are some big ladybugs for sure.
Very big ladybugs.
I would like to echo what Ginny said in the chat and say, it's a ladybug takeover.
Big over.
Oh, I like that. It's a ladybug takeover. So is anyone in the building?
Could be.
I don't see any reflections.
It's mailboxes, maybe it's full of
It's-
mail.
Or it's a holiday.
Mm.
Oh, okay. So it could be full of mail or it's a holiday.
Could those ladybugs be bumper cars?
Ooh,
Cards. But aren't there people in bumper cars?
maybe they're hiding inside the bumper cars.
All right. Well, if there are
Right track
people,
at all.
what was that?
Are we on the right track at all?
Oh, there's no right or wrong. So this is a great track.
Okay, good.
So if
Somebody
there
said, someone said in the chat, I don't think it's a building. I think it's a vent.
Maybe it's a vent.
Yeah, which could work too.
Oh, yes. Okay. So if
Is
there
this,
Oh,
we got in
Oh,
the
a new
chat,
kind of elevator. I
is this a
love
new
that.
kind of elevator?
oh,
Mhm.
Ooh,
interesting.
that is cool.
So how do the people, if there are people, how do they feel? Or how do the ladybugs feel?
Free.
They feel free?
Do they have dementia?
We don't know, do they?
Ladybug, ladybug, fly away
Yeah.
home.
Because I mean, if it truly is a ladybug, they can fly off. But
Mhm.
if they're on the track, they might not feel free. They might feel stuck.
Oh, good point. All right, so what sounds do you hear?
I hear my clock ticking.
Ah, clock ticking. What else?
I think you can hear the sound of them moving up and down.
Ah, okay. What kind of sound is that, Sarah? Can you make
Mm.
that sound?
Like a machine.
Oh,
Elevator sound.
Yeah.
like whoosh.
We
Or-
just got on the chat, they're singing, "We've got high hopes.
Ooh.
We've got high hopes. We've got high hopes."
Awesome. And are these the only ladybugs or are there more of them?
I think there's more.
Okay, and where are they if there are more of them?
Either below or to the left.
Got it.
Our chat says there's tons more.
Tons more. Awesome.
Inside and out.
Oh, inside and
and
out.
out.
And what will happen next?
An invasion.
An invasion. But the chat also says they have a purpose to bring joy and they like to serve and sing as they go. So there's a whole fleet, an invasion.
I love it.
An invasion of joy. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. I think that's the name. Well, what do you want to name our story?
I think an invasion of joy.
Yes. I second that.
Thanks, Sarah.
Awesome. Kathy, did you get all that?
So this has to be the hardest one I've ever done, which is great because that means you guys are very engaged. Okay, hold on, I'm just gonna move it over here.
Do you want to share your
You
screen?
want me to
now?
share the screen?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so I know it's probably very small for you, but I'm gonna read it. I'll see if I can make it a little bit bigger. Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
So an invasion of joy. This is an old post office box. You are probably too young to remember. They did not have those wires on top. A skyscraper? It is in the middle of the day. It is actually yesterday and cloudy. Very big ladybugs on the building. It is a ladybug takeover. Is anyone in the building? Could be. I am seeing reflections. If there are mailboxes, it is filled with mail, or it is a holiday. The ladybugs could be bumper cars. Aren't there people in bumper cars? Are we on the right track at all? I don't think it's a building. I think it's a vent. Is this a new kind of elevator? Interesting. That is cool. The ladybugs feel free. Do they have dementia? Ladybug, ladybug, fly away home. If they are truly ladybugs, they can fly off. If they are on a track, they may feel stuck. I hear a clock ticking. I think you can hear the sound of them moving up and down. What is that sound? Whoosh. They are singing, we got high hopes. I think there are more ladybugs. They are below or to the left. There are tons more inside and out. An invasion will happen next. They have a purpose to bring joy. A whole fleet of invasion. An invasion of joy.
Wow. Let's give our storytellers a round of applause. That was awesome. So just a quick question for you all. How did that feel?
That was fun.
It was fun.
Did you feel any pressure or anything? Hopefully not.
No.
So that's just an example of, how we create a story together. When we do it kind of on an ongoing basis, we will start a session usually with a beautiful question, but also reading back a story that they've created together. And then also what we would do is write down the names of the people who created the story, right? So that they can see their names on it. And then let's say we were doing it for 6 weeks, then we would collect all the stories and then create sort of that legacy gift that we were talking about earlier, to give to the participants, or like if it's in a center, we could give a copy to the center so they could always pull out the stories and read them again, because they're fun. So there's lots to explore on the Time Slips website if you're interested, and also there, we are still trying to engage our students. We're part of what they call a next gen program, where we're trying to create intergenerational programming. So using college students to learn about time slips and provide them to people living with dementia. So that's just a little taste. And I think oh no, I talked too much. So sorry, we were gonna leave time for questions, but we have 2 minutes.
That's okay.
Oh, we've got time. We've got time. We've got about 10 minutes for Q&A.
Oh,
So
great.
all
Okay.
all good. All good.
All
So,
right, so if you've got questions or comments, feel free to raise your virtual hand. We'll bring you on audio, not video. Don't worry for all those folks that don't want to be on stage. And then you can also type your questions in using Q&A, or you can throw them into chat. Oh, let's see. We got Tanya. Tanya, you got a question?
I do. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. All right. So this is what I had sent in advance. So I hope this is the appropriate place to bring it up. A lot of seniors, as they get old, lose their vision as well. And that's what we're dealing with my mom, who has very severe macular degeneration. She's not completely blind, but she is legally blind. And so the challenge that has existed for me is that all the things that used to bring her joy, she can no longer participate in. So the physical activities, she was a clinical psychologist, her memory is going. So my challenge is, frankly, coming up with activities and things which engage her, given those limitations. And unfortunately, to add to the wrinkle, so she has a very unique background in terms of being raised in extreme poverty. So we don't have even the connection of music and games or cards or anything like that were never part of her universe. So things that, when you go into assisted living facilities and you see the activities people doing, she has zero interest and will not participate in them. So you might not have suggestions, you might not have an answer, but that's my challenge. And it is really hard to get her to try to even come up with something. And she's a clever cookie. And so she knows when you're coming up with, she will sometimes know when you're coming up with things that are just specifically intended to occupy her, if you know what I mean. So, and given that dementia is never just a single state, it's always this constant, hi, I don't know what I'm going to get in this moment. Right. So that's, I think I've kind of covered a lot of situations I think that frankly people, caregivers encounter. So any helpful suggestions, please?
I think there's something in the chat. One thing, did you say she had been a psychologist, Tanya?
Yeah, she was a clinical psychologist. Yes.
One thing that just popped into my mind when I heard you say that was, would she still be able to, like, if you presented her with actual real life situations that somebody might be struggling with, that she might have encountered as a psychologist, would you be able to give her some scenarios and ask for her advice on something like that?
Yeah, I had thought about that. What I thought was, even though she can't see, I had thought about maybe trying to connect with, say, psychology students, and have them in the moment say, hey, I'm having this case situation, and based on your experience, and so this gets to, the depression that people with dementia have. So I think that this is a good solution, but I have not been successful at getting her to agree to let me try that. But I totally agree. I think that would be good because someone in the moment can just present something simple in the moment and ask her for suggestions to handle it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just, I think it would relate to her self-esteem and feeling useful because that was something she was able to offer in her life.
Yeah, maybe what I can do is, now that you've kind of bugged me about it, which is good, maybe what I can do is I can, rather than have her have a face-to-face with someone, maybe I can get contact like a local school that has a psychology program and have people send in questions, maybe get someone to send in some questions, like an email, and I can read it to her. And then that way it's really no pressure on her to respond or not respond.
Well, I think Kathy and Emily might be great contacts for you at
Okay.
Mason. Just saying.
Yeah, no, and so she was, yeah, so yeah, so that's the challenge, is to when you have someone who has additional limitations, and where the things that they were interested in before, they're not able to participate in now, and they're kind of, they are in a bad emotional place, how to engage them in a way which makes them feel useful, all of that. I was giving you examples of her specific situation, but I'm very sure that other people, other caregivers, can relate to the type of question I'm asking.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. That's hard. And also credit to you for your creative thinking on trying to think through all the different options. And credit to many caregivers who have those tough cookies that are just really challenging to figure out. Another one I would suggest is, I don't know if she's into books or stories, but maybe finding some appropriate level books on tape. That's not music, but it's on auditory. Also, if she enjoyed any sorts of like cooking, baking, being in the kitchen, any sorts of like smells or tastes that you can help, or feels as well. Because it's hard when those the eyes go, because
Yeah.
so much of what we do is visual.
Yeah. So I do have I've contacted we've got the reader from the Society for the Blind, and but she has been reluctant to try it. But we keep trying every so often. We try again, and I totally, gosh, I wish the smells thing would work, but unfortunately she's also lost her sense of smell and taste.
And I'll just
yeah.
also say, just like any person who would come to our adult day center, they all have the choice to sit in a recliner all day long. And it is hard to let them do that, because we know what's best for their health is to stay engaged, but people always have the choice not to do something. And that can be really hard, but thank you for continuing to try and trying to do it creatively.
Thanks for your suggestions. I think definitely I'll push again on seeing what I can do about maybe the psychology aspect, because I agree. I think that was the one thing that I thought that is, like you said, you were talking earlier in your presentation about what interests that person, or what interest did they have previously prior to the disease, and is there some way to tap into that?
I wonder also if there's someone where she's at, like a social worker, or who you might talk to about whether they have things that they could, be the same idea, but maybe like enlist her help for different problems or issues, because it's right there in the moment that like she could become like the person's helper or something.
Right. Right.
There's also, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
I was saying, like, that made me think of, I don't know if anybody, this is not from this area, but there's a female newscaster. I want to say she might be down in one of the Carolinas or maybe Georgia. Her name is Ramona Holloway, and she's had a TikTok channel about dealing with her mother's dementia. And her mother did unfortunately pass away just recently. But her mother would take her to adult daycare, and would basically, her mother was a teacher. And so basically kind of presented it to her mother as, hey, are you excited to go and teach again and help other people? We're not there yet with her dementia. So so she would totally call me out on that. But yeah, that's, I can see doing that down the road. And for anybody who doesn't know about remote, so there's a lot of great channels out there. If people are on TikTok, there's a lot of great things, and it's a good community support just to see the issues that other people are struggling with.
There's some responses in the chat too. I hope everybody can take a look and see some ideas that are in the chat as well. Tanya, I don't know if you can see those.
I can. Visiting dog, that might be that. I like that idea.
Yeah.
It's tactile.
Yeah.
Or the robotic pet. I don't know. Are the robots soft?
No. Yeah.
Quick question. Is there a particular group on TikTok that you go to?
No, it just, truthfully, so there, different people. So, frankly, if you search on TikTok for dementia, you'll find a ton of content, people who are typically caregivers, and they're posting, what their struggles are, maybe strategies that were successful for them, resources that they found in their community. And then often you can message that person or make comments, and there'll be comments going back and forth. So, yeah.
I thought it was all about doing little dances.
No, I mean, trust me, there are. But there are whole sections for, if other things.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
we are now just about out of time, but that was such a great interactive session, and how perfect after lunch, no time to get sleepy when you're telling the story. So that was really great. Some great strategies, Sarah laying the foundation there, and Emily and Catherine and oh my gosh, was it Kendall? Gosh, yes, Kendall. Thank you. And so I was like, wait a minute, what's her name? It was Kendall. But thank you all so much. And remember, if you have questions you want to put in the chat, we don't get to it today, we can find the answers and get back to you. So please keep that in mind as well. And handouts and all that good stuff will be available on the website at agingtogether.org. Information about the New Adult Day Center, contact Sarah. Mason is they got so many great things going on there. So contact Emily and Catherine there as well. So thanks for your participation. Thanks for the great story and all the good questions as well. We are going to take a 5-minute break. So we'll see you in 5.
Great. Okay, so let me pull up for these 5 minutes, what I think I'm going to do is share with you some of our sponsors here. And as you can see on the screen, we've got our presenting sponsors, the Virginia Geriatric Education Center and the Culpeper Wellness Foundation. Our program sponsors are the Rappahannock Rapidian Community Services, the AARP Virginia, the Villas at Suffield Meadows, and the Harbor at Renaissance, in addition to Culpeper Human Services. So thanks to all of those. A reminder to please visit our exhibit hall. It doesn't look like this. It looks a little bit different this year. But in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what it looks like and walk you through it. You can see the number for Aging Together on there, but let's take a tour of the exhibit hall here. And you can see kind of firsthand what it looks like, and we'll see who's there. So you see down here, we've got our sponsor pavilion. So we got the Harbors at Renaissance. We've got the Rappahannock Rapidian Community Services. We got AARP Virginia. We got Culpeper Human Services. And we've got the Villas at Suffield Meadows. Those are the main sponsors. And then let's take a tour around the exhibitors. Got 211 Virginia, Aging Together, Kindred Hospice, Trinity Senior Living, Two Tellers Telling. I love this company here. This is pretty unique. Another company that I love, Overwhelmed How Can I Help? Trying to be as objective as possible, but these are some cool exhibitors that are pretty unique. Wagner Hearing Aid of Culpeper, the Inova Parkinson's and Movement Disorder, and we're about to dive into a discussion on Parkinson's. We just got some great advice, and we learned about the Generation Central Adult Daycare. Care is There, which is a geriatric care management, aging life care management practice. Dogwood Village of Orange County, the Reformation Lutheran Church, and the Regional Transportation Commission. And then when you come here, you can see the full schedule. And what we might do is load up some of the videos that of some of these discussions into this as well. So that's what you'll find when you go to the conference page and click on the floor plan there. And let's see, looks like we are almost to 2:15. So we got Ellen back, and oh boy, did we lose our
Oh, we need Virginia.
Okay,
Virginia
let me.
Stanley.
Yeah, no, I'll get her out of the audience. She was on the stage there earlier, and I think I inadvertently put her back in to the audience. So Virginia should be coming to the stage, and
Okay.
all right, Virginia,
Yeah. Can you hear me?
we can.
Okay.
You sound great.
So that all, does that
So,
work?
Ellen,
Yeah.
here, actually, let me do something real quick.